So how about a really big round of applause for our B-Sides Edmonton volunteers who put this thing on. Please. When possible, when you're seeing our B-Sides volunteers, please give them a hug, because I don't know if any of you have ever tried to run something like this before. I once, and I've managed multi-million-dollar projects in the past, I've once tried to run the Active Start Jamboree for Ringette. It was 6 Ringette teams for a bunch of 6-year-olds, and it darn near killed me. So the fact that they put this on, this is fantastic. First time in Edmonton. B-Sides have been in Calgary a couple times. First B-Sides I ever went to was in Toronto, which was held in a bar. It was fantastic, talking about security and drinking craft beer all day long. It was absolutely fun. So my name's Adam. It's really special for me to be able to wear the number 56, the green and gold, because about a year ago I moved to Calgary. So I want to talk about all the things. We're information security people, for the most part, maybe information technology people. We always believe that we're the smartest people in the room, because quite frankly, we are, right? And we do suffer ourselves from that special snowflake syndrome, the unrecognized personality disorder destroying the world. And some things happened a few years ago in that we wanted to call ourselves hackers, right? Jurassic Park, my favorite movie of all time. I'm not a nerd, I'm a hacker. Yeah, that was fantastic. But then all of a sudden, APT-26, also known as Fancy Bear, I'm trying to do the Russian dance for you, and other state-sponsored folks like, I don't know, Lazarus Group, North Korea, they started giving the evil hacker a bad name, right? So no, we're not an evil hacker anymore. We're security researchers, right? That's been my mantra all along, is I like taking things apart and then seeing what falls over. Oh, I'm going to go back. Oh, this thing is just tricky as heck. I love it. Okay, there is. Okay, Tom Selleck really doesn't want to be on the page. This is your platform. B-Sides is your platform as information technology, information security people. The reason that I wanted to put this talk together is because in the course of my regular job that I've had for about 6 months, I'm doing a lot of investigations. So I actually went and got a professional investigator license, which makes me feel like Tom Selleck in his Ferrari Magnum PI. Yeehaw! Except I'm a bald man with a Subaru. So if you do something, if in the course of your regular business or in the course of your hobby you find something that is like, oh my God, everybody needs to know this, this is your platform. I encourage you to submit a talk to B-Sides or some other, there's YegSec, which I'm going to sign up for, CowSec in Calgary. There's all sorts of great places that you can talk about these things. Jack Daniels does a fantastic talk, large hat, large beard, large personality, brilliant guy. Talks about ethos, and what is our ethos as security people? What do we believe in? Do we believe that, yeah, okay, we got lots of torrented movies on our hard drive, doesn't matter. It's not really illegal, it's not really a problem. Well, a few organizations, I listed ISACA and ISC Squared, they have a code of ethics. For those of you that are fans of Javad Malik and he's, ragging out his kid, see, I've got a code of ethics that I have to adhere to, but those guys outside, they don't need to adhere to anything, so just talk to me. We do have a code of ethics if we have professional certifications. I pay an incredible amount every year in annual maintenance fees. I'm sure a lot of you do too. Talk at B-Sides Calgary last year was about bootstrapping your own security projects. I want to hack the next TV. I'm just going to go to Costco and buy it, hack the crap out of it, and then take it back to Costco. And everybody in the room went, ooh, that's a neat idea. But how does that fit into your personal ethos? And I use Keeper Security as an example of maybe that's not the best thing. Tavis Almondy, I don't know if anybody's heard of Tavis Almondy. He works for Google. He's one of the most amazing security researchers on the planet. Essentially what happens when Tavis points his laser focus on somebody, 2 things happen. The company that his laser focus goes on says, haha, right on, free pen test. And then they go, oh crap, doesn't matter what happens, it's gonna fall over. So Keeper Security had a really serious issue with their stuff. Tavis found it, and a guy named Dan Gooden published it on Ars Technica. Keeper Security said, You jackass, you can't publish that. You can't tell everybody that we're a security company. We're secure. You can't tell people that we're not. And they sued the crap out of him as a journalist. So Dan's ethos did not match up with the law team at Ethos Security. You can't have an ethics issue if you don't have any ethics. No? So talking about ethics, how many of you exist in computer security echo chambers? I often do, right? Thank you. Fancy beard. God, that is a glorious beard. I have beard envy like you wouldn't believe. I can't. All I can grow is this nasty 1970s porno stash. It's terrible. Movember is a real rough time of year for me. Police disclosure form. And I'm just going to burn through a couple of these things. Like, have you ever been chased or pursued by the police, foot or motor vehicle, yes or no? This is part of a 40-some-odd page document that you fill out as the first step if you want to become a police officer. This is their determination of the kind of things that they're trying to do to figure out if you're someone that should go through the police recruitment process. I'm not saying that any of you want to go and be police officers. I did at 25. I'll show you in a couple minutes why I didn't. Have you ever used pharmaceuticals illegally? Have you ever written NSF checks? Lots of things about naughty sex. Have you ever beat up a family member or kicked a kid down a stairwell? Because if you're looking for the next Captain Canada, you want to make sure that they've got a really good ethos, right? Then you get to this section on technology crime. Have you ever illegally obtained, sold, or given away any software? Oh, and it's not just a yes or no. It is kind of binary. If yes, please provide specific details, including dates. So, starting in 1976, on a TRS-80 model, no. Hacking, configured use wireless technology for the purpose of gaining unauthorized access. Ooh. War driving. Does anybody war drive? Of course everybody war drives. We don't war dial anymore, but have you ever downloaded or otherwise obtained commercial software and manipulated with patches, cracks, registration keys that allowed it to work? Adobe. So, stalked anyone over the internet? I don't know. Who's never doxed anybody on LinkedIn or Facebook? Have you ever done anything naughty with email? Dr. Evil himself doesn't know what the hell to do with this, right? And at the end of this police disclosure form, it also has a thing at the bottom that says something along the lines of, if you have, whatever you've done here becomes a legal document and you can be charged for the offenses you've just admitted to. These are offenses. So in our personal ethos, all of a sudden, this torrent box that we got sitting at home, maybe that's not viewed as ethically as the rest of the room might feel it is. So what is the worst that could happen? The title of my talk, the whole reason I'm here, and going through all this stuff in this investigator's license course, it made me realize some things. Yes, we do have a constitution in Canada. We don't talk about it a whole lot. Yes, we do have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and it talks about the kinds of things that we can be charged with by the Crown. Her Majesty herself comes out from on high and hits us with, there's a 2x4 here originally. Oh, look at this. I get props. Fantastic. So there's three kinds of charges that you can get in Canada. A summary conviction, which is the little stuff, which means that you can be charged up to $2,000, $5,000, depending on the kind of offense, or 6 months in prison. So that's the little stuff. That's, one level above a traffic ticket. There's an indictable offense. That's where the juries come into play. That's the big stuff. So that's up to 20 years in prison. That's you've killed your mom. That's bad things. And then there's a hybrid offense. So, a break and enter where you didn't shoot anybody is kind of it's not really a summary conviction, but it's not really an indictable offense. So they call it a hybrid. And, so we do have a constitution. It's not really all that famous, like our one true God and going around and stealing the Constitution. And not to say that Canadian politics is boring, as our Ford brothers in Eastern Canada have shown us, right? That was our buddy Rob, and his brother Doug isn't necessarily showing us up either. But you can't forget about this national treasure from Western Canada himself, right? The proponent of shoot, shovel, and shut up. So let's talk about it. The Mac Daddy to those of us who like to take things apart with computers. 342.1, unauthorized use of a computer. Everyone is guilty of an indictable offense, not necessarily a small one, and liable to imprisonment for a term of not more than 10 years, or is guilty of an offense punishable on summary conviction, a little one, who fraudulently and without color of right, and it talks about all sorts of good things. There's one, so using a computer to screw with things, and this is a criminal charge. And then we start analyzing, we go, ha ha ha, password. Yeah, because we use passwords now. When you actually go into the definitions, what they're talking about with a password is anything that you can use to gain a system. That could be a public key, that could be a private key, that could be a fingerprint, that could be a YubiKey. All these things that we can use to access a system, so uses, possesses, traffics, and permits another person to have access to a computer password. Sounds a lot like these disclosures and doxes and things, right? Getting a little dangerous. This is another big one. So when I started going through this process, I thought about the hackers in the room. And I think we got lots of hackers in the room, but we also have lots of people who are doing blue teaming. And sometimes our employers demand things of us that aren't necessarily legal. 183.1, where private communication is originated by more than one person or is intended by the originator, consent of the interception is sufficient consent for the purposes of any provision of this part. You've heard about one-party consent states in the US and two-party consent states. Canada, as a whole, is a single-party consent. That means if Thomas and me are in a room and he hasn't consented to the recording and I can record it. That's legal. But if my boss comes to me and says, those two people are having a meeting, I want you to record it, that's not legal. Everyone, by means of electromagnetic, acoustic, mechanical, or other device willfully intercepts a private communication is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term of not exceeding 5 years. Somebody starts saying, I want to record phone messages in our office. I want to record phone conversations between our customers and our sales agents, but nobody has consented. That could be 5 years in prison if the wrong people start making the wrong messages. Dangerzone! Pour one out for our buddy Bert. Rest in peace. Dangerzone, my favorite guy, Archer, Sterling Archer. So more on the devices and modification. So everyone who possesses, sells, or purchases any electromagnetic, acoustic, mechanical, or other device or component, knowing the design, et cetera, et cetera. What this means is if you take a device and you modify it so that it can record things that nobody has consented to, that's illegal. And that even becomes a bit of a gray area if you've modified something. You've taken a device, I don't know, a cell phone, and modified it to record your wife's conversations. That could be 5 years in prison. That's why you don't see a lot of these kind of apps on the App Store. People are asking all the time, how do I record conversations? Well, the apps can be found, but they're getting harder and harder because there could be prison sentences as a result. The other one that I put on here, too, is GPS. This is a very gray area in Canada. This particular device here is available for $59 on Amazon.com. It's called the Cheater Tracker. And a lot of these devices get used. So this one is used typically by private investigators or law enforcement. It's a little OtterBox-looking thing. It goes up underneath your car. You cannot place one of these on someone's vehicle in a private space. You cannot place one of these on a vehicle, in theory, without consent. And if it is without consent, and you're going to try to get that admissible in court, you have to prove that you have tried everything else first before going that direction. So that can be a very gray area. You're not likely to get in trouble for it, but you're not likely to get the results you want if you're trying to be the one doing something legally related. People talk all the time. Well, things got broken into. There is a data breach. There is a whatever. Does break and enter apply? And that bear does not know how to play the piano. He has broken into that house. No, break and enter will never apply. Break means you have actually physically broken a lock or a key or a door or something to enter, and they use the term a dwelling. So, okay, if I own your nest, am I in your house? Am I in your base killing your dudes? Yeah, kinda, but you're not gonna get charged with break and enter. Well, you could end up getting charged with this things like mischief. Mischief is an interesting charge. Summary conviction, hybrid, all sorts of goodies depending on what you've done. Or theft, as the monkey is stealing a hubcap. You can, especially surrounding intellectual property, if you happen to have broken into something and steal something patented, that could be really bad for you as well. Assault. You can be charged with assault as a result of things you say and do on the internet if it gets tied back to you. Or impersonation with my Elvises, especially if you are at any point impersonating a police officer or any kind of peace officer, bylaw, whatever. Hi, I'm Adam from the Internet Police. That could be bad. Another disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, so if you're taking any of this as legal advice, you're so screwed. So we're talking about criminal law at this point, and I'm going to burn through the... How are we doing for time? Give me like a $5 when I'm getting close. Awesome, because I'm hungry and I wouldn't mind a beer. Interpretation of the offense. The Crown, if you're going to be charged with a criminal offense, if you're going to go to jail or get a fine of up to $10,000, and we're thinking, okay, how disruptive would 5 years in jail be? That would really suck. My youngest would be 14. The Crown must prove that the accused acted without color of right and must be acting dishonestly and in bad faith. The Crown must prove that the accused had the knowledge that the act and intended use was wrong. So they have to prove that I was a dick and knew that what I was doing was rather dickish. How many of you followed this case from Nova Scotia? Yeah! I like that people are angry about this. 19-year-old faces 1 count of unauthorized use of a computer. Remember, we talked about that a few minutes ago. Teen charged over Nova Scotia privacy breach. A 19-year-old unauthorized use of a computer, 7,000 documents, 4% highly sensitive information. Here's the scenario to what I know, and I don't know a whole lot. I personally reached out to the lawyers that were representing this young man. He did what was essentially a FOIP, what we would know as a FOIP request. He paid his $25 to the Nova Scotia government to get some information back about a teacher's strike. And he noticed that, they gave him back a URL. So he puts the URL into his browser, and he got the information he was looking for, and then incremented the number in the URL and got more information. Is this hacking? The CIO of Nova Scotia, oh yeah, no, it was hacking, it was bad, it was bad. They went to the police, they told this sob story, we've been hacked. What does that sound like to you and me? It sounds like a frickin' data breach, right? Oh, I'm not emotional about it at all. It was absolutely a data breach. And there's my carbon, respect my authority. So I don't know if it was the RCMP or the Halifax police. A police force did all sorts of things. They showed up at this kid's house. They emptied all the cupboards. They cut open all the mattresses. They arrested his little sister while she was walking home. So he was charged. About a week later, the charges were dropped because somebody said, oh, we screwed up. But what's the worst that happened to that kid? For those 3 weeks, he was convinced that he was going to jail for something that, he scripted a wget is all he did and downloaded 7,000 documents and when he went to school. And he was convinced that he would never get a job, that he would never get a university education. Remember being 19 and the smallest thing, some girl looked at me funny and my world ends. Could you imagine facing 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine at 19 and never being able to, make a living because you are passionate about computer security? Oh my goodness. As compared to civil suits. So in a criminal suit, the Crown, Her Majesty herself, has to prove that you were bad and you meant to be bad. You're from the evil league of evil and you want to do bad things. In a civil suit, instead, it's this balance of probabilities, right? For those that remember OJ, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit, but he was still, civilly responsible. How the hell does that work? Because all that the plaintiff has to do is prove to 51% of evidence that you were a dick. They don't have to prove to, the letter of everything and all that's good and truthful. They just have to say, if we have this much evidence, we just have to tip the scales this much, and you do a face plant. And typically, what does that turn into? Money, money, money. Thank you, Snoop. It's all about money in this scenario. So what is worse? 5 years in jail and 10 grand, or $100 million? Or maybe the prospect of bankruptcy and losing your house. And of course, who wins? The lawyers. They're all the ones. Lawyers love these kind of suits, especially when it's something like, you know what, I don't like what that doctor did to me. And the Alberta College of Physicians and Surgeons says, well, that's fine. You can hate what the doctor did to you. We're just going to tie you up in lawyer fees until you're bankrupt. And that's not uncommon. So what can we do with all of our energy? I like hacking stuff, right? I really do. So that's why I get into things like up at the top there, Winter, that was the SANS Winter hack. What was it called? Dang it, can't remember. So SANS, every year for the last number of years, has done a hack challenge, a holiday hack challenge. That's what it is. And it's friggin' awesome. Last year, you're going in, you own machines, and then you have to do this little game where your little snowballs move around. North Pole had been taken over by evil baddies, etc. There's bug bounty programs, CrowdStrike, that you can actually get paid for making things fall over. How cool is that? The attackers are getting paid, right? Hi, my name is Adam. I'm from the Internet Police, and I'm from Canada. Yeah, I'm Canada Revenue Agency. I'm sending the sheriff officer to you. You need to pay me $4,000 in iTunes gift cards, and people do it. Why can't we get paid too? We can. There's bug bounty programs for all that. My biggest advice, though, is breaking out of those critical, or those echo chambers. Do some critical thinking. So stop thinking that, okay, yeah, I've gotten my 4th or 5th letter from Shaw that says I've been torrenting movies. Well, yeah, they're not going to do anything to you until the day they do. That doesn't mean it's without teeth. The agreement that the telcos in Canada have with all these movie producers is that they will say, okay, we've identified that this person has been downloading stuff. They will send a letter. So Shaw will send a letter. The movie studio sends Shaw a letter. Shaw sends you a letter. And that letter says, yeah, quit it. Until at some point when the movie studio says, yeah, I've decided I'm going to do a subpoena. And it's not just the Crown in Canada who can make a subpoena for evidence. There's what's called an Anton Pillar order. And any citizen can subpoena evidence. So the movie studio can subpoena your computer from your house, and the police will go get it. And it's something we should be scared about if that's the kind of activity we're taking part in. Because, quite frankly, karma is a bit of a thing. The kid in Nova Scotia, did that whole scenario sound familiar to anybody? Anybody remember Weave? He did the exact same thing with one of the large telcos in the United States, and he actually went to jail for quite a while. The difference was, well, this kid lawyered up pretty quickly, and Weave is a dick. I think Weave got out after 6 years. So Computer Fraud and Abuse Act in the United States is significantly more scary than what we have in Canada. And I remember, actually, there was a fella in Russia who was convicted of running some large spam botnet, and he chose to be tried in the United States and would likely go to jail for 20 years in the United States. One of the ladies that works for me, works in my team, she's Russian, and she's awesome. She immigrated to Canada about 8 years ago, and she's got the thick accent, and she's the kind of lady who when walking through a park, the birds would land on her shoulder. She's just so sweet. And I asked her, well, why would this happen? Why would this guy choose to, face these charges in the United States rather than Russia? She said, oh, in Russia, they would kill him. What's the worst that could happen? Death, I guess. Still rather be charged in Canada or Australia or any of the Five Eyes nations that aren't the United States. So in protecting our Canadian infrastructure and protecting the stuff that we do for our clients, for our companies, for our people. Again, that wiretap one in particular was a real eye-opener for me. I encourage you to read the law. Nothing that I put up on here is not available on, it's all available on Queen's Printer. So Queen's Printer, if you just Google that, then you will get access to all of our laws. Computer Fraud and Abuse Act in Part 6, I believe, is all that wiretap stuff. So things that, again, phones are just an IT asset now, aren't they? So what's the worst that could happen? Lots of jail time, I don't know. Lose your house as a result of a lawsuit. I'm not sure. But you know what? It's Miller time. It's the end of the day. For those of you sticking around for supper, I really appreciate the opportunity to hang out with you. I burned through this pretty quick. And I will pass this back over to, some say he fought a giraffe with nothing but his feet, and that he is the illegitimate child of Serena Williams and God. All I know is he's called the Thomas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Adam. So awesome high-energy talk to end our first day at B-Sides. So for those who do have VIP badges and are sticking around for dinner, it's just right outside in the lobby. We'll be getting going tomorrow again at 9 o'clock. So thanks for coming. Please feel free to mingle in the common area if you have any questions from the speakers, from ISC Squared, from Nate, or from myself or Harvinder. We'll be around to talk. So thanks again. See you all tomorrow. Thanks.